You're listening to JW Raw with Eminem.
We are live.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our show. We are at the world famous Jackson Wink Academy in Albuquerque, and I'm Mark, and there's Mr. Misha. Today we have Jose Maresma on our program, and we've been wanting to talk to him for a little while now. Finally got it set up. He is a practicing exercise physiologist, and he's been doing that for about 25 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually closer to 27 now.
No, see, there you go.
I gave you an old bio, maybe?
So it says you hold certifications in both advanced clinical weight loss, stress management, mind, body health, and strength and conditioning.
Yes.
And you also have special training in neurology, and the whole neurology thing of performance and the metabolic development. So that's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, fun stuff.
That's scientific, scary stuff.
We can
It's
geek
way beyond our head, but that's what
Not at all, man.
we're here to learn about it today. So that's
we
cool.
all have that stuff going on inside our body, so it's fun.
Heck yeah.
It's a fun thing to learn about it.
So it says you've worked with the U.S. Olympic team before, some NFL.
Olympic Training Center, the NFL,
Nice.
NBA, the alphabet super professional sports.
The U.S. Ski team.
U.S. ski team, Park City, Utah.
Soccer, cycling,
USA Soccer,
triathlon,
USA Cycling, triathlon.
and then we're getting into the sports that the high level NBA, NFL, NHL. So you've done it all.
Yep.
How cool is that?
It's a lot of fun. Very
pretty much
thankful.
you know what you're doing, huh?
I hope so. It's a learning process. We're always learning new stuff. But I've been very fortunate to have a broad career, a lot of opportunities that were presented to me, and I did. I probably got more out of it than the people I worked with got out of it, just from the learning opportunity and so forth. But it's been awesome, and I'm here.
And how lucky that we have you right here at Albuquerque.
No, I'm psyched. What you guys do here is, this is world class. People come from all over to participate. So same level, same tier of excellence.
We haven't announced it yet, but we're in works to do a partnership with you guys at your world famous facility that you got here in Albuquerque. A lot of people don't know about. We sent one of our fighters to you already, Diego Sanchez, to go get the whole battalion of tests and stuff. So how did that go? Tell us a little bit about what that is.
Fantastic. So we had Diego over, and we ran him through a couple of screens. Perfect candidate. Obviously he's a top performer, and I can see why he's had a long, very successful career. He's very involved in his tool, right, which is his body and his physical health and so forth. So we brought him over to the Fitness Institute in New Mexico, and we had him go through a couple of screens. We're going to get him back and do a few more screens, but we put him through a Fit 3D scan, which is we took a three-dimensional picture of his entire body, about 400 near-infrared photographs as he was revolving around a table. That gave us, his body symmetry, any muscle imbalances that he might have, his full body composition, so lean mass, body fat, postural analysis.
Yeah, this sounds like super high-tech, crazy stuff. So is this like something you see in a movie? So is he standing on this table, sitting on this table?
Yeah, so he stands on this platform. And
like a little disc or something?
It's like a disc, and he hangs on to a couple of handles, and he's basically, stripped down like he might be in for a weighing. And so this camera, as he goes around, this camera, very special near-infrared camera.
Oh, I can imagine.
It shoots little pinpoint dots all over his body. And he goes around in a circle. And, so this is the leading edge or the gold standard for postural analysis, because now it's not our eyes just looking at something and being, subjective, potentially, although you need the analytics from an actual practitioner. But we have the objective measure of his physical body. In fact, it even creates an avatar for him.
Wow.
It takes about 30 seconds to do, about 35, 40 seconds. And gave him a lot of feedback. In fact, he was able to say, okay, there's some things I want to start working on. Gave him that kind of feedback immediately. So we took the photo, and then it shot him a very complex and comprehensive report that I can look at as somebody that's supporting him, or any other coach that he's working with can support him. But also it gives the athlete that feedback of what's happening for his body. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So we ran him through that, and then we also ran him through a Dexa Scan. A Dexa Scan is another form of analysis. This is the gold standard in body compositioning. So we were able to see his lean body mass, so his muscles and organs. We were able to see his bone mineral mass. We were also able to see his fat mass and where he's storing fat. And this is an X-ray type device, and this takes about 5 minutes to run the full test. And again, very comprehensive. So we can see his visceral fat, which is fat that's in between the organs, and the more dangerous kind of for health reasons and so forth. We can see his subcutaneous fat, which is the stuff more that's the aesthetic component, right, that we want to get it. We can look at his bone mineral. We can see imbalances in muscle mass. So, if he has, some symmetry with his muscles, so do we have equal development? So a lot of feedback that we can give the athlete and the coach to help to make sure that they're optimizing where they are. And so we ran him through those tests. We're going to get him back and do a Vo2 Max test on him, where we'll see his aerobic and anaerobic threshold and see his capacity to do work. So
he'll be a regular resident over there.
Yes, I think so.
That.
Yeah, and then we're gonna do
Diego's a gadget man. Every day he comes over here, he's like got new gadgets,
headsets, here.
So
well, he was awesome. When he showed up, he had researched the device because he knew some of the tests that he was going to go through, and so he'd actually done the research. So the guy's super savvy, and really into his well-being.
He can probably teach you one other thing or two.
He did, actually. I was pretty impressed. He came in, does a lot of yoga.
He got me hooked on yoga too.
He got you hooked on it. Do you enjoy it?
Yeah, I go today. I go every once in a while.
Excellent. So we're gonna actually get together and do some mental training.
He told me that starting with push-ups. Yeah,
mental push-ups. We're gonna start with his mental push-ups.
He told me that I took them.
So the second test, it almost sounds like an autopsy, but you're alive. Literally, it's looking at your bone density. I mean, it's looking into your body and showing where all your organs are placed, and you're talking about how fat layers are here, and that's fascinating.
Yeah, so you get that three-dimensional picture of your body, and you can see where everything is, and it gives us, it looks at bone length, so we know if your femurs are symmetrical, if your radius and ulnar is symmetrical, if there's any kind of wasting in the muscle. From injuries, we can see if there are injuries. You can help with the replacing muscle mass after, say, atrophy or that type of thing.
So once you pinpoint what the problem is, there's obviously certain solutions you take, right?
Absolutely.
Like you go after and target that particular problem, right?
Absolutely. That's what's beautiful.
And that would be like with what, like physical therapy? Is that what it is?
Yeah, we could do physical therapy or exercise prescription or any of those things that we might use, traditional modalities that we might use in training an individual. Say you see some imbalance in a muscle, and maybe the shoulder is coming forward. So you combine these two scans, and we can actually get a lot of information. And so maybe we have some compensation that's happening from either injury or overuse or underdevelopment of a muscle group, and we can actually balance it back out. And then we're also preventing injury, potential future injury, and improving overall performance.
Okay, we're taking it to a new level here, man.
Absolutely.
We have a lot of this is just the partnerships that we're making. Everyone talks about the institute out in Vegas, that is the high tech coolest thing in the world. But what we have right here in Albuquerque is next level.
It is next level, and it's the equivalent. So from a technology standpoint, we have the same type of technology.
The same swimming pools and all that.
We don't have the pool component, unfortunately, but from the analytical components, yes, we do.
No pool, forget it.
No pool, I know, but we can access those types of tools in a space that we have. But from a lab standpoint, from the Human Performance Lab, we have all those same tools. You would only find them at a facility like there, or the Olympic Training Center, or the U.S. ski teams training. In fact, they don't have a lot of the technology that we have. I know.
How did it all come about that you guys ended up here?
So we have roots. We have roots in New Mexico. So Dr. Gardner, the medical director of our facility, is somebody that's connected to New Mexico and wants to get back. That's the gentleman
we met with you a few weeks back.
No, that was Roy.
Okay,
Roy May, who does operations and helps with all that side of the equation. But we have roots here in New Mexico, and obviously I'm a New Mexican. I've been here my whole life. Traveled obviously all over these places that I've worked, but my home base has always been New Mexico. So our roots are here in New Mexico. We love the community here. We not only do high-end athletic performance and analysis, but we're also doing well-being. So we're helping people get healthier, leaner, stronger, and finding a greater quality of life. And that's a big part of what the Institute is about. That's our ethos.
I tell people we don't have a pro team in Albuquerque other than Jackson Wink. That is our Albuquerque's pro team that the city has adopted as our pro team. So
The state.
Agreed.
we have a
Yeah.
lot of
Was there in
Dallas has the Cowboys. So Jackson Wink is our pro team. We have a lot of athletes listen to the show. You're not just so. Are you only the highest level people, or can like high school kids go in there and get the
Absolutely.
same test, or how?
Yeah, so we're available. We're open to the public. And obviously we forge relationships. I mean, with you, very specifically because you are a professional team.
Yeah,
You're
of
a
course.
professional group, and we obviously want to do that work. And it's a lot of fun to do that work. It's a great opportunity to do research and help individuals perform at their best, right? But we're also here for the community. So we want to bring in the youth. We want to bring in the competitive amateur athletes. We want to bring in people that maybe are just getting started and want to run a 5K or a 10K. So we can help all that cross section of individuals with great information, and that's going to help them perform at their best. And we do it safely, so we avoid injury, we avoid illness, and we help you perform your best. And so we're available to all those cross sections.
Oh, that
And
sounds
we'd love
like
to
it,
see
yeah.
a lot of these athletes coming in and finding out what their Vo2 Max is, finding out how they can optimize their health and well-being and their performance. Obviously, those things come together. And we do mental training as well.
The Vo2 Max, for the people that don't understand, that don't know what that is, that's where you're on a treadmill hooked up to like a
Yes.
the face mask.
So we do, you've seen it on TV. I remember the old Gatorade commercials, those fun commercials, the guys running on the treadmill. So you might be on a treadmill, you might be on a bike. And it's a gas exchange spirometry, so we actually are measuring the exchange of oxygen and CO2. And what we're finding out, Vo2 Max literally it's the rate at which you can absorb and utilize oxygen, right? And so that's critical for your metabolism, muscle contraction, all those good things. And so we're able to find your work capacities and then also optimize how you train to improve or develop those work capacities. So we can give you heart rate based training tools. We can see that you're actually improving your capacity, and it's not only aerobic capacity, but your anaerobic capacity, which is a power component, right? Athletes, for example, combat athletes need a good aerobic base because that's what's keeping you running around, but they also have to have that explosive kind of power, and we can help by using these kind of stress tests, right? We can get that kind of information and optimize your training, make sure you're not leaving anything on the table. In my career and with all the great coaches that I've gotten to work with and the athletes I've worked with, we've always talked about controlling variables, right? We try to control as many variables as you can, because once you're in your sport, once you're on the field, once you're in the octagon, it's mayhem, right? It's you're not in control of those variables. But if you've done the work ahead of time, you've controlled your sleep, your conditioning, you've developed your skills, your craft, right? Which is what you do here, a lot of the skill and the craft development. You've done your physical conditioning. We work on our body, and hopefully you've done some mental work as well too. A lot of people don't train their minds. That's something that I'm very interested in talking about if we get to that point.
Well,
but we control as many variables as we can, and when we show up, we give our best, and that's how we can be successful. And at the Institute, what we really are trying to do is give you more variables to control. So a greater depth. A lot of people don't have the opportunity to actually see what's happening physically in their body. So we go on intuition, we go on some tradition, we go on some subjective, measures, and we do our best. Now we can add these very objective, very high level, scientifically based analysis, and that's going to give you more information to work with. And that can make the difference between success and failure, a win, a loss, a draw, whatever it might be.
Yeah, that Max VO2 thing is a fascinating thing. Years and years ago, when I was with Sandia Labs, we had to do that Max VO2 once a year, and you had to be a certain level every test, or you lost your job pretty much.
This is for federal. It was a federal thing. It's called 10 Met capacity.
Yeah, it was
you have to have a
fascinating.
10 Met capacity.
So I have negative connotations of the thing because it scared you. It's like, oh man, everything has to be symmetrically just right, or
it is a little scary, right? It's very uncomfortable in some ways because you put this mask in your mouth and we stress you. We take you to the end, right? Basically, when we're using younger athletes, right, it's appropriate we take them to a maximum stress test, and that's literally we're waiting behind them on the treadmill because they might come flying off we take them to the point where their muscles fail. Where the muscles fail, and it's very it can happen pretty often where they collapse, because they're at that point where they can't do anymore. And it's very important to go to that level of this particular kind of a test. We can do a submaximal protocol as well, which is more appropriate. I don't want to scare people away from doing this.
No.
It's challenging. And what you get back is a lot of fun, really high quality information that we can use to help you get better. It's well worth it, and it's fun. I mean, and typically, with most athletes, they're very often type A, very driven individuals, so it's not too bad. But it is a challenge, and I get where you're being tested for a work environment. It can be a little stressful. Right, you're put up on the block there, and you're being observed.
Yeah, those days are long over.
I saw some of the pictures of you that you sent me with Diego getting tested and stuff. You have a pretty cool environment there in that office, like very nice, laid back, very classy. And
we have a gorgeous
office. I want to go check it out. I saw it.
Yeah, we're gonna take a field trip.
Well, you guys come over and we'll put you on some of the
screens. He'll go on that machine.
Mark,
I want to see him fly out.
No max VO2 for me.
No stress test for.
I want to see him fly out.
The laser beam thing sounds
without any support. Okay, we're not going to stand behind.
I think Misha would enjoy it, man. He'd get off on that.
I want to get laser probed though. I think that sounds kind of exciting.
Well, it'll be a lot of fun, and the feedback is good. So even if it's just health things that you want to use, maybe I want to get leaner, maybe I want to get stronger. Maybe I want to see what's happening with my over-metabolic health. There's great information that we can give you and kind of help you get to those goals as well. Our office is 6100 Uptown Boulevard, right over there in the Uptown area. It's a gorgeous office. We're on the 6th floor.
On the mountain, right?
You have a view. We can see the Sandia. So when we do the stress test, you can actually look at the Sandias and enjoy. It's gorgeous. I would train you to let that suffering and pain go. Just let it go off into the blue sky.
Sometimes there's even snow up there, and you can really...
It's very zen.
Tranquility of it all.
Very zen. No, but it's gorgeous, and it's a beautiful medical office. Very comfortable. We have great suites where we do the stress testing, and then we also do the consults where we sit with the individuals and we review what we've done. We give them the information. They're able to understand genuinely what's happening inside their physical bodies. Right.
I think it's going to be a very good partnership.
I do too.
I think this is taking it to new levels, man.
It is. You were telling me that you're looking that mixed martial arts, the combat sports are really looking to optimize and be innovative, right? Yeah. And take it to the next level. This is one of the most competitive sports that's out there. The top performers, when you get them in the ring and they've prepared, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
I think it always comes down to belief, that you did everything right and you took certain steps and certain measures. And if you like Diego and you believe in it, it will positively influence you in a certain way.
Absolutely.
I think it's just reinforcement of the things that you do, I think it's like dieting too, It's like if you ate something wrong, and you go into a fight, deep down inside, you're going to feel that guilt. Oh, yeah. It will be like, you start guessing out, like, man, why did I eat that? Why did I go out? Why did I do this and that? I think it's from the mental aspect of it, this is huge.
Yeah, so that feedback is great. That's another one of the things, and I'm glad you brought that up, because when we actually do the analysis, what's nice is you're also getting a positive feedback for the hard work that you're doing here in the gym. Yeah. So whether you're here doing, your skill work, or you're doing your conditioning work, whatever, we're going to be able to tell you, this is effective. It's actually affecting your body in a positive way. We're seeing the trend is bending correctly. We're actually going in the right direction, and we're seeing improvement.
Let me ask you this. Let's say if you have a fighter in the camp, right, for 2 months, let's say 3 months again, ready for the fight, right? Like, how many scans? Like, what are the things they would need to focus on, the things they would need to do? And let's say they start in the beginning of the camp, they get tested, they get measured whichever way, and then what do you do? Like in the middle of the camp, maybe, and then at the end of the camp before the fight? How would you do it?
So it again depends on how long the camp is going to go on, but we would want to do the screening up front. So we get a baseline on these individuals, and as we start forming these relations, like with Diego, for example, we have a record now, and so that's forever, and we can compare everything we do in the future against that. So it's his reference point.
He started to where
Correct.
He's now.
So in a camp situation, we would want to screen them at the beginning of the camp as close as we can, right? So that we get a baseline. We know exactly where they are. And we would do Dexa, Fit 3D, Vo2 probably, just to get that baseline and see where they are. And then depending on the length of camp, maybe something in the middle, make sure that we're moving in the right direction, that we're not, regressing in any way, and we're seeing some positive changes occurring. And then something at the end of the camp to
So
actually
you
see where
saw
we're
like
at.
three scans, right?
Yeah.
Three visits.
Yeah, 3
And
visits.
they're pretty quick visits too, right?
Yeah.
From what I understand, it's like 10-minute scan or something.
Yeah, so the Fit 3D, for example, is 40 seconds,
Yeah,
and then that email goes out within 5 minutes
Wow.
with the full report.
That's amazing.
And that's automated, so
That's
it actually
amazing.
goes through, and
Yeah,
all
'cause
of
you
our
know how these fighters are. They're like, they don't have time.
they don't have time. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that
But
that
then,
we
like,
want to
they
be
wanna
respectful
win.
of. Yeah, is walk in, get that information quickly. We can get them out of there in probably under 40 minutes,
Yeah.
right? And that's complete. They're out the door, and they have all that info. The Dexa takes about 5 minutes to run, and then the actual analysis takes about 10 minutes, where the software runs it. All this information is HIPAA compliant, so it's all protected, just like any kind of health information. Obviously, if Diego wanted to release what his screen looked like, he could do that. I can't.
Yeah.
But all that information is highly protected, and only the
Right.
medical professional that's working with him and him or his coaches or anyone he chooses to release it to, which is nice. And what's great is those records and all of the software actually allows overlaying, so we can see those changes occurring. Right, over time.
It just tells you, like
It
once
just
you
tells
enter it, it's
Yeah.
like, we'll notice a change in something.
Yes, so you'll be able to see that
pretty cool.
transition. So,
It's not like
we
you have
already.
it's not like you have to look and search for things like that, if they're symmetrical, not symmetrical. It just pinpoints
It's going to be obvious. We're going to see it.
technology.
And what's nice is, for Diego, for example, we already are planning to get him in 30 days as he begins his next training camp. Yeah, so we're going to get him into 30 days, and he really wanted that information to get back, and it's going to help, like you said, Misha. It's going to help him know that what he's doing is working, and it's actually
there's a
those
lot
physical
of broken
changes.
bodies out there, man. A lot of broken bodies, and the people and fighters that just never even consider it. Just comes with profession.
Sure.
It's like you will be broken, no
Yeah.
matter what, but. And back then they never had that, so
Yeah.
then they're not used to going out there and checking on their
Sure.
bodies like this. It was just basic chiro and just
Yeah.
basic massages,
Doing
and
what
things
they
like
can, doing what they can.
Well, and it's not. This isn't anything that isn't available to anyone else. It's not like we're cheating over here and doing things that no one else has access to. I mean, Mr. Winklejohn, we had our meeting a while back with, and he talked about getting Holly in there, obviously. And
Yes.
we were kind of in a time crunch, obviously, to get her in there before this fight this weekend.
Yeah.
But the athletes that go through this program, it can do nothing but help them.
Only positive.
yeah.
And I mean, you make a great point. This has been available to athletes, and it's typically only been available to Olympians and very high performing professional athletes, because they're the only ones that had access to these facilities or gyms. And they weren't very common because the equipment's very expensive. It's really expensive, and we don't have a lot of technical expertise, people that actually have used this equipment. So I've used this equipment for, more than 25 years. We didn't have access to actually get to it. What's fun about the Institute is that we have the ability to get it not only to you guys, at this level, you're at this particular tier, the top tier, but kids that are getting into it. So imagine the benefit if you start as a young fighter and you have this information, you have this record, right? And what's a professional fighter's career in
It's
mixed
debatable.
martial arts? I mean,
Debatable.
what's an average career?
Well, right now I tell you it's hard to say because a lot of the big name fighters, because it's such a new sport
Sure.
to a certain extent, so a lot of the big name fighters that are still fighting into their 40s,
Yeah,
they just have the name recognition, so it's very hard to walk away from the sport.
absolutely.
Because now they can actually make money.
Sure.
Back then they were fighting for pennies for like 3 fights a night.
Yeah.
And now, they can't walk away. So it's really hard to measure when does it stop. Because once we're seeing the new guys progressing and then walking away, I would assume it would be around mid-30s probably.
Well, and I think Diego Sanchez is a perfect
Great
example of
example,
that,
right?
because he started, like, the guy started wrestling when he was in
Well,
middle school.
Listen, they wrestle from 5 years old. It doesn't matter. I'm talking about MMA when you get.
But here he is. Here he is in the UFC. He's the senior UFC guy.
And it's very hard for him to walk away because now he's got that big name, and that's when he's making the money. How do you walk away?
And he's in his
So
late
our
30s,
goal,
yeah.
our goal is to help him not have to walk away, right? Our goal is to do everything that we can to protect his instrument,
100%.
to protect his physical health, right? Which, so if we begin somebody as a young man or a young woman, right, and they start their career early, and we have this information, we can maybe prevent injuries that maybe weren't as preventable, like you said in the past, where we kind of said, okay, this comes along with the territory, but maybe we notice by having this kind of feedback, are they overtrained? Do we need to give them an extra day's rest? I mean, is that something, and you guys know,
It's
fighters
mental
don't want to
with-
stop.
Yeah,
They
with
don't.
overtraining it's insane. Like
gosh.
Holly, man, she would be like 5 times a day,
Yeah.
man, like
she's
training,
quick.
just like, you overtrain,
Yeah.
but it's like they don't even feel that pain anymore. It's like it's more mental. It's like that block to
That block.
overtraining. You're just like
And they could end up compromising themselves,
it's
right?
probably more dangerous than anything, really.
Absolutely. So that's been a huge concern, and throughout my career and all the coaches and athletes I've ever worked with, I started my career in the 80s, and we were really focused on doing the work. We know how to beat up bodies. We know how to put that physical stress on you. We know how to overload you. We weren't paying close attention to how to allow the recovery to occur, because all the adaptation, right, all the benefits from training come when we rest, when our body's resting and it repairs itself and rebuilds itself, right? And that isn't with the skill training components, right? We're working the skills. But then again, if your nervous system is overstressed and you're not sleeping well and your muscles are tired and your nervous system literally is inflamed, you're actually not going to develop that clean skill that you want. I mean, that's going to affect that development. So again, using technology, we have amazing technology. Pretty soon we're going to be introducing something called the Aura Ring, an amazing little piece of technology that athletes will be able to wear on their finger, and it will continuously read their heart rate variability.
Wow, so it's like an iWatch,
Yeah,
but on a ring.
it's on a ring, so they'll wear it, and it is a lot like an iWatch, and it's a little more sophisticated,
Obviously,
right? From the feedback, and that feedback is constantly loading back, so a coach on the back end can see, and they can see if your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems have been activated. Just so
Holy
not to
cow.
get too geeky here, but your sympathetic nervous system is stressed.
So coach will have an app and like, yo,
Yeah.
dude, like go to bed, man, now.
Sleeper, you're not sleeping, coaches, because it does
Holy
sleep
crap.
reports too, and it'll say you're not sleeping well. So what can we do? What do we do? Get off your iPad, at 9
Take those
if you're planning to
electronics
go
out,
to
yeah.
if you're planning to go to bed. A little sleep hygiene, but it's those little variables, because modern life is busy, and we have these tools, and
Kinda
we're
crazy.
our minds are scattered, and
Like Big Brother's watching. Like,
Big Brother's
coach,
watching. In a good
man,
way,
leave
though.
me alone.
Big
coach.
But
Go
that
away.
that information, I mean, this is revolutionary, right? That we're able to
It is.
actually get this kind of feedback. And then those little tweaks, and especially at the top level, right? I mean, those tweaks are very subtle at that point. Controlling those variables is critical, and it can make a big difference. If you get a bad night's sleep before you go into the ring, but your opponent got, one of the best night's sleep, that's going to make a
It makes
difference.
a diff-
It's
Let me
gonna-
ask you this: since you work with so many athletes, right? What do you think? Which athletes in which sport? I guess, probably hard to say, but to a certain extent, which ones put themselves to way, way, way more stress than the others?
Which assets?
Like
Which athletes from different
From what
sports,
type of
because,
sports?
you have-
Psychological stress.
Yeah,
or
like
what-
all type of who has it the hardest? Like NHL, MMA, NFL, like from you working with these guys.
I don't know if I can differentiate
No, right.
who puts the most, because when you get to a certain level, they're so intrinsically driven. That stress is pretty high across the board. They're very self-critical. They're always working very hard. I mean, obviously, things like combat sports, MMA, I mean, it's a one-on-one
It's more
opponent kind of
individual
thing. It's
versus
very
team. That's
individual.
why I don't know if it plays a factor into it.
I think it's universally pretty stressful for these
Right.
athletes. Yeah, they're working hard. I couldn't say. I mean, years ago there were some studies done. Who's the physically most fit or most demanding athletes, and I don't think we had the right amount of science to really understand that. They were looking at motocross racers as being one of the most physically kind of abused, and soccer players and professional level soccer players, just because they ran the equivalent of a marathon if they played a full game.
Wow.
Game. But again, that was in the 70s. These studies, I don't know. I think they all work pretty hard.
Well, one of our sponsors, the Cbd Boutique, he was a professional motocross guy.
Yeah.
and he tells us about he's broken every single bone, Evel Knievel stuff,
And those are some of the variables that they were looking at. Injury, right? Injury is highly stressful on the physical body. And then just the whole repairing, right? When the body's healing, that takes a huge demand from the system.
But you get,
so that could be a big one.
You're breaking bones in every single sport. I mean, football. So you asked about the shelf life of athletes. It's impossible to say because you've got 38-year-old hockey players, 38-year-old football players, 38-year-old MMA fighters.
That's why.
And
you
know
never
why?
understand
Why?
when people say prime. Like I never understand when people say, "Oh, this guy's in his prime," or this and that. I think everyone has their prime at different stages of their life. Everyone trained different. Everyone fought different amount of times. Everyone. Maybe you started late in life training, maybe you started too early. It's impossible to say. Everyone seems to say always like, oh, this and that, but I believe prime is one of those subjective things
I
that
agree
you just
with you.
can't pinpoint.
I agree. Individual genetics.
Yeah, genetics.
How have you trained, right? So what we want to do is train smarter and not harder.
100%.
And I think we're seeing some of these athletes playing at these levels now. Science has a big part to play in that because they're getting more feedback from even things like, for example, at the Institute, we're going to be doing stem cell therapy treatment. And I know you guys have incredible treatment facilities here.
Oh my God, I was told about that yesterday.
Yeah.
The guy, I was at the jiu-jitsu practice, the guy said he had a major problem with his shoulder. He got a stem cell shot. And 3 years later, it's like a brand new shoulder.
It's revolutionary.
There's a lot of people scared of that stuff.
I will need to talk to you about that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We shouldn't be scared about that. Our body produces stem cells all day long. That's a natural part of how we heal our bodies, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's the stem cells that are coming from the living. You hear stories they're taking it from fetuses and all kinds of
we shouldn't be worried about
science about this. It was scaring a lot of people. So
we shouldn't be worried about that. Most of the stem cell therapy that's being done now, it's taken out of the actual individual. So they harvest it from either bone marrow or blood plasma, and then it's re-injected from your own body, from your own physical body. And most of these treatments are done that
so
way.
it's not coming from donor
It
bodies.
is not.
So stem cells, do they work on bones or it's
soft tissue?
It's soft tissue.
Yeah, and stem
so
cells.
if I have problems with lower back, it won't help, right?
Well, it depends on where the pain's coming from. It depends on what the injury might be, but
it's very hard to pinpoint though the problems with your lower back.
Back stuff's tough. Back stuff's
there's so
really
many
tough.
moving parts in it.
A lot of moving parts, and then if there is an injury, our muscles tighten up to protect,
and
right?
And so
exacerbation. But I love that concept. I think it's cool to see athletes having extended careers and performing at these top levels because now you have 20 years under your belt of experience, and that's huge. I mean, you can't buy experience. We can only get it by having the experience, right? So, for example, Diego, he has all those years, that mileage, those reps of that work being in the ring. You can't buy that, and so it's cool to see these athletes being able to extend their careers and do it safely. Right, so that they can enjoy their retirements.
I think everything happens for a reason. I think you guys came around at the right time.
Yeah,
as we grow, and this is perfect.
I think one thing all these high-level athletes have in common, though, is that they all start at a very, very young age. I mean, they're 4 or 5 years old. Their parents are putting them in little leagues and stuff.
Yes.
I mean, Alex Bregman, perfect example of one of our Albuquerque guys that made it huge. I remember his dad when he'd bring him with him to around. He's a little tiny baby, and now he's he's winning World Series, and it's fascinating. But the kid's been playing baseball since he was old enough to walk,
So mileage, right?
So depending on the sport that you choose, I mean, you're doing it at a high level forever.
Yeah.
What do you think with your tests? What would be an ideal age to get someone in there to start doing these tests, or is there an ideal age?
Yeah. So if a kid is and they are starting a lot younger these days, right? Yeah. So if a kid has said, "Hey, I want to export. This is going to be my sport." If they're around 10 years old, I think that's the time we can start looking at that because there are considerations with young bodies. They're still growing. We have open growth plates. We want to train them properly. And you're bringing up a really interesting point here. We have these parents that are putting kids in at a very young age, and then they're pushing them, and maybe a little harder than they should be, man. Kids should have a period of time where they're children, and I get it. If you want to be, a world-class gymnast or a world-class, XYZ, you do have to start early if the Olympics are your goal. Another reason they should come in, actually, because we want to do it safely. We don't want to injure kids. We've seen a rash of big, for example, young ladies with ACL injuries in soccer, for example. And I know that isn't the sport that we're talking about here, but it's one of those things. A lot of kids play youth soccer, and we shouldn't see that. I didn't see that 25 years ago. That wasn't the case. Now they're getting burned out early, and they're getting hurt. And they're getting hurt where it's going to affect the rest of their lives. I know kids that are 15 and have had 3 ACL surgeries.
Yes.
Right, and that's something's wrong there. Something's wrong with the training. Something's wrong with the recovery that they're getting, and that's part of what the institute wants to do is help coaches, help the athletes, help the parents also understand, a healthy way to train, because you can do that. We can do that now. Now we've learned a lot about how the body works. We don't have to abuse our system. Training smarter, not harder.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Do it the right way.
Do it the right way.
Because like ACL, for example, if you start having issues with that, it's not like, okay, now you're not going to be able to play tennis anymore, or baseball, or whatever.
No.
This is going to affect you in anything you do for the rest of your life. It's an injury that's always going to be there because you
knee and hip replacements at 35 or 40. That's not okay. That's not a good quality of life.
Yeah, you're supposed to be doing that at 70, 80 after a fall or something.
Absolutely. So so we can get the younger kids in there. Like the Fit 3D scans are great because we're going to start seeing muscle imbalances, postural issues that might be happening for these kids, and so it'd be a fantastic opportunity for them.
For the people that are listening now that are kind of interested, we're kind of piquing their interest a little bit. What's the best way? You guys have a website. What is that?
FitNewMexico.com.
Okay, that way.
FitNM.com. FitNM.com.
So guys, go to FitNM.com and you can. We pulled up the website the other day, and it shows pretty much everything, the battalion of tests that you can go through and all the services they offer.
The menus are very clear. You can contact us through that, no problem. And we'd love to have you come in and just go through a consult.
How expensive are this type of services?
They're actually
public.
Yeah, so this is the cool part. A decade ago, this stuff was astronomically expensive.
Oh,
Another reason that people weren't going to get these tests done. You could go down to university and maybe spend a whole day there and spend, $1,000, $1,500. Now you can get a lot of these services. You can get a lot of screens around the $50 range, $150 range.
Wow.
With follow-up and a lot of real good information that you can get.
This is like Ivan Drago type of facility, man.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's hilarious.
Without the needles in the background.
Yeah, no needles unless you're doing some of the stem cell therapy, maybe, and then that's going to be done by trained physicians.
How many physicians? How many what's your staff is like? I mean, you're the main guy, right?
I'm the lab director. Yeah, so I do the performance and fitness, and then so the medical arm has a variety of people. So about 20 people that are on the team that are specialists there. So we have medical aesthetics as well. So if you can come in and we can help you with your fitness, and if you need a little smoothing of the skin, that could happen as well.
Wow.
No, this is legit, man.
But it's a lot of fun.
This is big.
But the services are very approachable for the average person. You can come in; it's very reasonable. Go through the services.
They call to make appointment, yeah.
Yeah, we would call to make an appointment, and we can get you in. And we're excited to get some of these athletes as well as some of the.
Well, I know people are going to ask: does insurance cover this kind of stuff, or is this?
It depends on maybe your medical savings account, and some of the medical side of the procedures. It's potential, but a lot of this is out of pocket.
Guys, so check with your insurance. Maybe
health savings accounts
Well,
can cover some of these.
Yeah,
but out of pocket is very approachable. It's very approachable. We have some programs where you could have monthly kind of a membership fee, and you could start as little as $19, and that would give you access to regular scanning and feedback and working with professional coaches.
Different levels, different plans,
different levels,
things.
different plans.
I guess how's that work? They come in, you interview them, right? What their goals are, what their things are, what they're doing, and like why they're here, right? And then just you build a plan based on that. You kind of go over your services and stuff.
Absolutely. So you may come in and maybe you want to just get leaner, or maybe you're a competitive triathlete, or maybe you're a fighter here that's getting started and want to get a little more serious.
Because I know we're right now in the process of figuring out, right, how we're going to do with fighters, right? Because we got, I guess, maybe come up with something that's unique to what we do
Yes.
and the things that they need to get done.
Yes.
You know, when they get into the camp.
Yeah, and as we develop that kind of what that package looks like for your fighters,
We need to put it together. Yeah,
we'll iron it
sure.
together. I mean, you know, what we did with Diego, for example, those are really good baselines. So anything that's give you posture, anything that's give you body comping, you know, especially if fighters are cutting weight. Let's say they come into camp and their goal is to cut weight healthfully, right? We don't want to lose muscle mass, right? Again, so we compromise the engine and they show up compromised, physically compromised, and that's something that's historically happened for fighters. So obviously we want to look at their body composition, make sure that we're maintaining that muscle mass, we're getting rid of tissue that's fat tissue, right? So that they get leaner, and that we do it in a safe way, even if they are trying to downsize in their weight class.
Cool.
And this is fascinating. This is all stuff that you can tell just by doing these scans.
Yeah.
And say, look, man, this is where you need to work on this.
How does the system see that? Like, how can that like? Can you talk a little bit more about, I guess, the actual technology behind it? Like, I mean, it's mind-boggling to me, man. Like, how can a machine dissect a person, like Mark said, give them an autopsy?
So we're basically looking inside. It's something that you know, several hundred years ago when they first did cadaver analysis, that's the only way we could get a peek inside. Now we have technology that gives us the ability to outlook inside. So the Dexa is literally an X-ray. It's a very low level X-ray. It's the equivalent of maybe going from here to Los Angeles on an airplane. You get about the same amount of X-rays, you know, on an airplane that way. So very low level radiation, and we are looking inside the body, and so that's how we're getting that visceral fat. It knows the difference in the tissues, and then we see it in a kind of a heat scan. So we see the bones, we see the lean muscle, we see the fat deposits where they're located. We can see if the neck is tweaked, or if there's wasting in a muscle or a bone. And so we actually see the interior picture.
So what's the difference between, let's say, MRI? Let's say if you have a problem with your lower back, or you have a problem with your shoulder, and getting MRI down X-ray versus doing that.
So MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, that's a little deeper dive, and it's more specific. And you're going to use an MRI more for some kind of morbidity, so an illness or an injury or something of that nature. And that's what an MRI would be for. So the Dexa is a little different there. We're looking at mineral and then tissue deposition and so forth, and where it is. But along that same kind of internal.
It's deep to the bone and inside the bone.
It's not as
This is more for muscle tissue. Okay.
Correct. So and lean body mass, fat mass, and so forth, where we can see all those tissues. So that's the technology that you're looking at. We also have a Dexa scanner, which is a biomedical impedance device, which we didn't get Diego on, but we're going to get him on that. And that's a hydration scale that gives us hydration, body composition. So there's some redundancy. But when you bring these all together, it also looks at cell quality. So it looks at the phase angle of the cells, intracellular, extracellular hydration, very important when you have somebody cutting weight, for example.
God, man, this is just so futuristic what's going on.
And they just hop on the scale, and we know that they're doing it right, because even when you cut weight and you do the dehydration process, right, where we're really letting go as much weight as we can to get the tissue down, get the weight down, the body suffers when it's actually trying to rehydrate. It's going through a lot of work. So what we can do with this is make sure that we're doing it properly, that it's as safe as possible. It also talks to cell quality. With the phase angle test, we can see, so is your mitochondria working? That's the engines inside your cells. We can make some estimations there with some of this data. So using that technology, basically what we're doing is we're looking inside the body. We're looking at as many, at a very granular level, into the cell, and then a macro level, we're looking at the bones and the actual symmetry.
My goal is obviously for you to, had the Winklejohn, and we were talking about yesterday.
Yes.
So she's a very high opinion of you, for sure.
I have a very high opinion of her, so.
Yeah, she's mutual. She's probably very smart like that too, man.
She's pretty smart.
Getting deep into that, I'm like, oh my God, man, how you know that
she's
stuff?
Crazy smart,
yeah. And obviously the goal is when our athletes go and get tested, then they link up with our nutrition program and stuff.
Yeah,
and
so
they get the report, and then they can continue.
You guys work. It's not like you're taking over.
I know you have your own nutrition thing.
We have stuff,
But it just we have it to a certain extent where we have our doctors as well that just very deeply involved and they know the fighters very well.
You have great professionals here. You have great, and I mean, Heather is a perfect example of that. She's an amazing nutritionist, health coach. She knows what she's talking about. I've worked with her in the past. I've known her many years. I have a very high opinion of her skill set.
It's not like you're trying to steal her
not at all.
or,
What I want to do, what our goal is with like Heather, for example, is give her more information. So have
So we can
access
do,
to
yeah.
information that she may not be able to collect, right? And I
Yeah.
know she has a scale here where we can do body comp and hydration levels and so forth. Our stuff is kind of that next level. And so it just gives her a deeper look inside. And that is part of what the Institute's goal is that we want to be able to be a resource for other professionals that are doing this work. So in your case, you have a very robust nutrition program here. You work very well with your athletes that we can offer additional information that they can use to help with their decision making and so forth, including we have some amazing software that is open to Heather to use as well for prescription. So she can prescribe, her meal planning the way that she wants to do it in the way. And I know that you've gone through some of her testing and so forth. It does make a big difference. Food's one of the things that we ignored for years in my field. We really did. I mean, you'd go see the nutritionist.
That's a fuel. It's like you put junk in, you get junk out.
Yeah, you have a Ferrari and you put a bunch of diesel fuel in it, it's going to run like junk, right? So we need to feed the Ferraris the right kind of fuel and make sure that they're optimized.
There's so many foods out there that you just don't know what they consist of, and the food industry is pretty much crap. And they just
food industry, $550 billion a year, more than we spend on armaments, right? So
especially
there's
if you're shopping at Whole Foods.
There's an interest in influencing you to eat in a particular way, and a lot of the foods that claim to be good for you are just making some claims, right? So
especially that FDA not FDA not approved or whatever that thing. When you read that, is like, what does it even mean?
What
like
does that mean? That's a
we
very good question.
We talked about that with
They're
Dr.
approved,
Anita.
not approved, hormone free, not hormone free. I'm like,
I mean, you can go to Whole Foods or
confuse the hell out
Sprouts,
of you.
and everything in there is
Intentionally, it keeps you buying.
You go to these places and everything in there is supposed to be good for you, but and then you go into Smith's or Walmart or wherever. And
I would say there's plenty of organic crap.
So which organic is good and which is bad? I mean, he was talking
It's
about
almost
this.
like if they stamp it organic, it means it's good. Like really?
The brown eggs are better than the white eggs, but the white eggs aren't as good as the I don't know.
Go figure.
Okay, that's why you have a Heather, right, to actually guide us in the right direction. Start with real food. That would be my first
Like I said on the last
qualification.
show,
To start with real
they
food.
saved my life, really. Well, they made my life, not that they said, but they made my life a lot
With the
more
blood
easier.
test, they gave them that
Oh,
blood.
yeah.
They actually
I did
gave
that
us
food
both that blood
sensitivity
test.
It's the best thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, so not all
Stand
food
by it.
is good for us. Even some good foods that are good for most people are not good for everybody, and you may have a sensitivity to it, like eggs or whatever.
I had sensitivity to something I've been eating, like it was my favorite foods, and that was getting me sick
kale.
for years.
People eating kale,
Yeah.
right? Anyway, and we think that's great for you, but maybe it's not so
my
good.
my body, my
See, and it
person
worked for
does
him.
not take it.
Yeah, your body doesn't like it, so that's great.
It worked for him, but it was a disaster for me because
He
it
couldn't
told
have burritos.
it told me
everything he
crushed
couldn't
your
have.
burrito.
He
Was
said I'm sensitive to cheddar cheese, to tortillas, to
So the whole combination
beans.
of burrito.
Yeah, that's a bean burrito, man. I can't. You tell me I can't eat a bean burrito?
For
It's
Mexican.
bad for me.
That's why I
It's
talked
just-
to Heather, though.
I
She could
mean,
probably give you an alternative
Oh,
setup
yeah, she
that's
did.
equally
She did.
satisfying and
tofu
delicious.
or something. I said I'm not gonna eat
no
that
tofu,
crap.
no
I'll
Let
throw
me
it in the
ask you a
trash.
question. I was curious. How's it? You actually worked in an Olympic Center, like inside?
Yeah, at the training center. Yeah,
Really?
Yeah,
In
absolutely.
Colorado?
It's gorgeous.
How's it like?
It's for me, it's like a fantasy. You should go visit because they give tours there. But it is a gorgeous facility. I mean, it's amazing. From dormitories to dining hall to the actual labs and training spaces. It's one of the most amazing places you will ever visit.
It's like
It's
NASA.
like Disneyland,
Yeah.
NASA for athletes and for coaches. It's fantastical. I mean, we can do the VO2 test there. You could do a VO2 test in a pool.
Wow.
Right. That is something that unfortunately we can't do. We
Yeah.
don't have a ton of swimmers here, but we can do VO2 tests that are comparable. But there they can do it in a pool. In these beautiful facilities.
I'm sure. I mean, this is supported by government, but one of the guys, obviously, the other day wrote something cool about our facilities. This is like equivalent to Olympic Center for MMA.
Yeah.
in this place. I was like,
Yeah, it is. And I mean, the facility
Obviously, we're
here,
not supported by government. I wish we would.
No, but the academy here is gorgeous, and it would be similar. So one of the arenas that I worked in was the wrestlers, right? So I went down, and so they have beautiful, and it's equally beautiful here. It's as nice as what you're going to see at the Olympic Training Center.
Well, that's why this is a great
the academy.
Yeah,
They just have a
It's that
lot
nice.
more money back in the moment.
They
Way
do have
more
that.
money.
They have more, bigger. It's a campus. It's like a university almost.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
and they have
They
dining
have so many
halls.
sports.
Well, they have-
Obviously, if you talk about Olympics, I mean, there's gazillions of
yeah,
sports.
and every sport is training there, and the way that
Yeah.
it works is typically athletes come in for camp, right? So they come in and they phase in, they phase out, they phase in, phase out. It's a little different, like at the training facility for the U.S. ski team, which is in Park City, Utah. Another gorgeous facility, but it's not nearly as big as the Olympic training. It's in fact very comparable to what we have here size-wise, but they have, the cool technology, and more of the athletes are there living, on more of a real-time kind of basis here, even like you guys do here. You have your athletes in your dormitory living. So this is very comparable to a high-level professional athletic training facility like the Olympic Training Center. This is that here. What's cool is now you have a lab, right? And you just had, which is less than 10-minute drive away.
Well, and that's what we're getting at. The partnership with you takes us to the Olympic level.
We're at that next level.
Yeah.
So you have access to all that. You have the dietary component. You have the rehab components right here on site, which are wonderful. Now you have the lab, so you can get the data that you want, and that's in real time. And that
JW
feedback.
Performance Center.
So you're crazy. You're crazy not to come to Jackson Wink and just do your camps over
I'm
here.
telling you.
JW Performance
The
Center.
access, who wants to live in Las Vegas, Nevada, when you can just be right here in Albuquerque?
So advantages. You're here. Not only is this a beautiful facility, our weather is awesome here. You're not going to get cooked, and we're a mile high here, so you get altitude training right here.
We definitely have that over Nevada, because they're really trying to pitch that to the UFC fighters that's the place where they need to just do everything. But
No,
you know what?
Come here. So
Literally.
In fact, bring them over here so we can run them through. You got lab access. You got some of the best coaches you're ever going to find, right, in the country, in the world. Come here.
Yeah. We need to get Claudia. We need to get Claudia in there. Hey.
Yeah, I'm actually today before you came in, I was working on that little promotional thing.
cool.
I'm going to
Yeah.
launch it. I'm going to put it out there soon.
I'm super excited.
And
We're
I think right now, because of obviously holidays and a lot of guys that people are gone and stuff, come January it's going to get very busy. So we'll start building it up.
Yeah, so this is exciting.
Very exciting.
We're super excited at the institute to be part of this.
I think
and be
we're at
involved
the
with
level
you guys.
we're in right now. We need that. This is something that will take us to new heights. I
So-
believe that.
Let me ask you: are there any high level athletes that you can talk about that you've helped them, that you've dealt with personally?
Probably so many.
I can't name names.
Yeah,
it's good, but but people that you would know.
Definitely at all different sports.
All different sports. So
How cool
a lot
is
of
that?
cycling, several NFL, a lot of skiers.
Cycling,
Yeah.
highest level stuff. Yeah.
I know, and we're a hotbed for that here in New Mexico. Actually, this is a great place for endurance kind of sports and athletes.
Yeah, runners, cyclists, and MMA
tennis.
Tennis.
A lot of good running.
You've seen Holly's head kick play out many times on
Yes.
video, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Are you able to break that down as far as a physiological?
Scientifically,
Concussion?
How do you,
put it on the body scan.
Are we? You think we're going to see
Slap
that?
brain
Are we going to see that this weekend with Cyborg? I mean, what's going
we hope
on?
So right?
What's going on with this movement exactly when she's doing that?
When
I mean,
she's doing that, she's a well-trained athlete.
Yeah.
So her body, she is in flow state. So this is that I can comment on that. She's trained and done the work. Like Misha was saying, she's done the work. She showed up. She's automatic, right? She's on autopilot. She's in flow state. She's in the present moment where excellence occurs, right? She's right there, and she doesn't even have to think about it. And that's what a great athlete does. We do all the work in the gym. We do all the work out in the field, so that when we show up and we walk into the octagon or get onto the playing field, that we're on autopilot and we've done that hard work.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm seeing there. Somebody that it just
Yeah,
she didn't even have to think. It's happening in such
Mr.
lightning
Winklejohn's been
fast.
teaching her that since the age of 16.
Yeah.
So
From the scientific point of view, too, what happened to the other person on the receiving end?
On the receiving
that's
end,
the scary
she's
part.
concussed. So the blow is hard. The brain slaps against the inside of the skull, and we see stars.
it's fascinating.
Yeah, it is fascinating, and I mean that's the goal, isn't it? It's
Any
very
of your
traumatic.
Any of your technologies measures what happens after?
Yeah, there's some. We actually have a cool group here that's in Albuquerque that we're working with too. and they have sensors that they can put in glove. They did some of the sensors in the gloves.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah. And I mean, in this case, you can't see the sensor for a kick unless you were wearing pads.
And I was going to ask if there was some kind of like a bracelet that you could put around her ankle or something. I mean,
yeah, that I know they're working on that kind of stuff right now. They
still
were talking
futuristic.
about a sensor that they were working on a smaller sensor. They did it with some boxers, and I don't know if they've done it with MMA fighters, but they can put the sensor in the glove and it's non-intrusive. So, but they're working on a much smaller one that they could put on an extremity, because you can measure the velocity, right?
Yeah, I'd love to know the power. the
because there's some serious force being transferred right in that.
There's got to be some kind of measurable the force that you could say, holy cow.
That's how they measure that. For instance,
Nagano's punch. Supposedly he's got the highest punch ever recorded. But I don't know how they're measuring.
It's pretty accurate. Yeah, so if you can measure the speed at which and the distance it traveled, you can get the power.
Yeah, we actually want one of those machines. We're gonna put it in the corner and have all the
the punching.
All the guests punch thing.
So we
just
could
measure.
if for a future guest, we get Jeff Collins in here, who's another exercise physiologist, a buddy of mine.
Yeah, let's get him.
Who's developed that. He works in the technology field around fitness. He'd be a very interesting guy to have in here.
Maybe he can
donate
one to the gym.
Come in here.
Bring his toys.
Why don't we
I want to keep a ledger, like of like we'll have a game, who has who holds the records for the hardest hit or something.
Well, we could bring them in here because I bet they'd be interested in playing in this environment and maybe bringing in some of those sensors.
That would be way cool. It'd be a fun show actually.
And have the punching. Measure and then bring in that data and look at what it looks like. And even have Holly.
I'd love that.
Yeah, what's that look
bring
like?
Holly and Alistair, John Dodson.
A little competitive too.
So
who's hitting the hardest?
You could get some bragging rights. It's like, hey,
now we keep this place locked up, so we're not going to let them cheat and come in and practice.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think of the punching power? Is it something that can be developed over time, or so you're born with like that crazy hit? Like you have these monsters, like for instance GNU, that just born with something ridiculously. So and then you have someone that can knock people out, but then can they develop and become that type of puncher?
I think all of those components are trainable. I think some people are born. I think people are born with certain gifts and probably come in and will never get as strong as a particular person. But from a scientific standpoint, you can train those things, right? And I mean, a lot more about punching and so forth, and the technique. But so from a science standpoint, absolutely. If one human can do it, then another should be able to do it pretty similarly. We look at, there are, bone length where tendons and muscles are attached, all those kinds of things, potential muscle development and so forth. But all those are trainable things, like from strength and technique. And so there's a range. Obviously some people are going to fall into a higher end of the range. Maybe they're a natural puncher, but it's trainable. Just like the mind is trainable.
With all that high level athleticism, there's pains associated with it, and that's where we go into talk a little bit about our sponsor, who does they sell CBD oil and CBD boutique, a local company here in town. Yeah, and I'm going to get at that. What they have this cool product that is now WADA approved that the athletes can take. What's your opinion on the whole CBD thing?
So I'm a fan, and I'll qualify by saying I take CBD oil because it helps me with sleep.
Perfect.
It's great for the nervous system. It
helps
helps with recovery.
You get a sample.
That's coming from a scientist.
Yeah. So and what's neat is the world is kind of, all right. Look at that.
That's the Hecka brand.
Love it.
This is really clean from Colorado farms. Yeah. A very high potency, 1,000 milligrams.
Yeah.
So that's critical, right? The quality of the CBD oil. Again, there's a lot of junk out there.
It's not that $30 crap.
No, that's the high level stuff.
Expensive.
So that would be, in my opinion, the quality is critical. So this is high quality, right? So the concentration is high because you want the effect. It does affect the nervous system. The research, obviously is in its infancy, in the sense of, really hardcore researchers are getting into it, but it's very promising.
It's like that stem cell thing. People
Absolutely.
There's so much misinformation that people don't see the benefits. They just automatically shut it off. No, I heard bad stuff about it.
No, and so this is, it doesn't have the psychoreactive components, right? So this is very safe. I have my father taking it because he has knee pain.
Oh yeah,
right? And it helps.
I would say it's like vision. It's like olive oil. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, pets. People are giving it to their pets for
cancer,
anxious
so
pets,
anxiety.
cancer. Yeah, it's an amazing product.
Yeah, and I mean most commercial pharmaceuticals are made from
Yeah.
plants, and in the end, this is a natural occurring component.
We're trying to do our part to get people away from the pharmaceutical crap that's just plaguing. I mean, it's causing.
And
Believe me, these fiends, these monsters out
I
there walking
experienced
around.
it myself.
And
my
so
back problem.
we believe in it so much at the Institute that we're actually using this in our pain management.
Excellent.
And so when
Wow.
we're doing the regenerative medicine, we're incorporating CBD as a component because it's actually a very good component to bring in when
I'll
we're
give
talking
you
about
some.
inflammation and so forth. And so I'm a huge fan. It's a great stuff.
Well, Mr. Maresma, we appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
My
My pleasure.
Your product is incredible. The teamwork that we're going to have with each other is going to move forward. We're excited to have you local. This is going to be a great thing going forward, and we can't wait to see. We'll get you back on a show because once we start getting more athletes through the process, I want to be able to bring them in with you. Maybe that way we
that'd be
to avoid the
actually-
whole
that's a
HIPAA
good-
thing.
That's actually a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once we put more fighters through
Yeah,
it,
let's put
and
some,
the results starts coming.
Maybe
and then,
maybe after
then we can
Holly's
sit
fight.
down. Then we can sit down with that and evaluate with all the
Yeah.
information that you
and
guys
that'll be
gather.
super valuable to have the athlete's opinion. How
Yeah.
did this benefit me? What did I experience? How's this supporting my training and my success
Yeah.
in the ring right now? So I'd love to do that. Thank you guys.
Hey, thanks
We're
for-
honored to be part of the
Thank you.
team here at the
Looking
Academy. So
forward
thank
to
you.
the partnership.
Thanks guys for tuning in. We appreciate you. Make sure you tune in. We got so many different ways for you to tune in now. We're actually on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. There's no reason you can't find our show anymore. So
Yeah.
just
all over all types of social media networks. You got Facebook, Twitter,
please tune in.
Twitch,
and
YouTube.
tell your friends and family. We're always we're not just interviewing fighters. We got a little bit of everybody, and we're trying to get someone every single week, and we're doing good. So tune in, and we will see you next week. We got another exciting show, and see you soon. Go Holly
Go
and Carlos.
Holly,
Thank you. Good luck,
Triple
Holly.
H,
and Carlos.
and Carlos. 100%.
Come see us at nmfit.com.
There you go.
Through these doors walk the greatest fighters in the world.